Hello and welcome. We're here at Perfectly Paranormal, episode 133. My name's Annaschmidt, and I'm here every week to share with you true paranormal encounters and information about devils, demons, and dark energy beings that no one else talks about. And today you're going to get a parent's inside view of what happened when he took his family to a historic public place, gone retro, and the entities and the hitchhiking spirits that were present turned his family's normal days and nights upside down. Now, this is an episode that no one should miss because historic places, I'm not against historic places being converted into businesses and places of recreation. But historic places that are converted into new public places can be really great for business and tourism. But not all the patrons using or visiting these premises are going to be aware of the possible entity presence. Now, I'm not trying to make people paranoid about going to historic buildings, but as we know, there are spirits and dark entities everywhere. More so in historic places where there has been some sort of trauma. Energetically vulnerable people can sometimes take home more than what they're bargained for, as you're going to hear in the following experience. Now, Ben's family, their experience really does highlight the possible dangers for energy-sensitive people and energetic attachment. And I will say, however, that there are some places, usually old historic homes or prisons or asylums, that offer accommodation. And the living guests know of the possible spirit or entity presence. It's why they go there. They're paranormal attractions, and people often want and expect supernatural experiences. You know, it's why I would go and stay in old historic places. I've done it twice here in Tasmania in old nurses' accommodation because there are spirits present. That's why I go. I watch a lot of online paranormal investigations where people go and stay at such places to have overnight experiences. But not everybody is aware or actually wants to have these experiences, as you're going to hear in Ben's story that I have called the Dinner Time Hitchhikers. Now, Ben took his family out for the day. They walked around town, did some shopping, as people do. And people get hungry, so they were looking for a place to have lunch. And they decided upon a historic location, which has now been partly converted into a cafe, both for business, but to also share the historic building with locals and tourists. It's quite common. There are lots of places around the world that do this. Now, this particular building dates back to the mid-1860s, when it was once part of a penal facility here on mainland Australia. And as soon as the family entered the premises, Ben's two children, that are aged roughly between 5 and 7, started to misbehave, like in really, really erratic ways. Now, as we all know, little kids do get excited and they like to play up sometimes. They just get elevated. But the level of behavioural disturbance was totally out of character for both of these children, especially the youngest one. They couldn't sit still. This is what Ben told me and talked to him on the phone. He said that they couldn't sit still. They were running ragged around the space. They were weaving in and out of the tables. They were being loud and noisy. And Ben just said that they were totally dumbstruck. Ben and his wife just sat there. They just didn't know what to do. This was totally out of character for their children. Now, I've done some property and energy clearing work for Ben and his family in the past, within the last couple of years. So I was the first person on their what to do now list, because in the few days after their visit to this cafe, the kids' behaviours didn't improve upon leaving the premises. Ben said, in fact, they got worse. Like the youngest child, the poor little fella, he couldn't sleep. He was seeing dark shapes in their home. He was crying through the night. He was frightened. And after 2 nights of the whole family having disturbed sleep, Ben rang me. He explained that the kids' behavioural changes, and I listened and I observed, and I'm thinking as Ben's talking to me. And I asked if they'd visited any new or sort of unusual places. And yes, Ben spilled the beans. They'd been to a cafe on the site of a historic place of punishment. Now that's all I'm going to say. It's not about naming and shaming the location. It is what it is. I knew instantly that these very psychic kids had attracted attachments. They'd attracted spirit and possibly dark energy attachments that had followed them home. Now these little kids, they are really psychically open, as a lot of youngsters are. Ben was a little bit shocked when I shared what I'd found when I tuned into his children, and I removed spirits and some dark entities that were around the children. And you know why they were there? Quite often, spirits it's not that they're attaching themselves to children specifically. Sometimes they'll follow people who they think can help them, and they'll loiter in your home, which is simply what they're doing. And the dark entities go with the spirits because they're kind of attached to the spirits because of the trauma that the spirits have been through. But the kids were seeing both. And they're like, how does the 3-year-old explain to the parents, like, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm feeling? It's through the behaviours. So it's really important to observe your children, observe yourself when you go to historic places. Now, I suggested to Ben very strongly that because both kids are very, very sensitive to the paranormal, that the parents avoid visiting particular types of historic places with their youngsters. Now, the kids didn't pick up energetic hitchhikers in other places, such as school or going to the movies or going to the park or going to the supermarket. But some places that they visit, that they have spirits that are traumatised and they're really looking for the light. Spirits can sometimes see people who are psychically open or who have that energy worker vibe. And it doesn't matter how old you are, the spirits can't tell and they don't really take much notice of your age. They just go, right, there's that energy worker vibe. I'm just going to follow that person home and they'll know what to do to help me. But a 3-year-old can't help a spirit. A 3-year-old is going to be frightened. A 6-year-old's going to be frightened. Probably a 10 or a 20-year-old's going to be frightened unless you're aware of why they're there. They're not there to hurt you. They want help and they don't know how to show it to you other than being in your presence. And depending on how children or adults see spirits, it can be a little bit frightening. And also the dark entities that sometimes are attached to the spirits or present in homes. You know, I've talked about this a lot, especially back in episode 51, about why spirits follow people home. So I'm not going to really go on about it now. You can have a listen to that episode where I fully outline it all. Now here's a little side story for you. A dear mate of mine named Dean. Now Dean lives in the UK and Dean has a habit of visiting many beautiful stately homes, as he calls them. And even he will sometimes email me for an energy check. Like Dean's my age, he'd be in his mid-50s. And in the days after visiting some of these places, he will notice within himself subtle or not so subtle changes. Now this can be in his energy, his sleep patterns, his focus, his thinking, his mental and emotional state. He knows there's something not right and he'll think, where have I been in the last few days? Oh, we went to that historic site. Right, I need to get onto this straight away, contact Anna, get an energy clearing. So he gets onto it straight away because he is aware of the signs and symptoms of changes within himself. So the lesson in this is not to avoid these historic sites unless you are really, really super sensitive and you take entities home all the time. Be aware of how you feel when you're out and about. Now, this can be at the supermarket, at the doctor's, all the normal places. But places of trauma, which is where Ben's cafe was located, they are going to be particular, what I call hubs of spirit energy. There's going to be lots of spirits present in some historic places, especially considering what goes on in some of these historic places. I know I'm calling them historic places today, but it's not about naming and shaming locations. It's simply not why I'm doing this. It's about observing how you feel, how people around you feel. And it's about not being paranoid, but the observing of your mind and your body, your emotions, your mental state when you're in particular locations. Or sometimes when you're around people, especially those energy vampire, those toxic type people. If a place doesn't feel right, leave. If a person doesn't feel right, if you're getting that bad vibe and your spidey senses are sort of pinging off, warning you, warning, leave now, you need to move away. Your body is the best dowsing tool that you will ever have. I mean, I use a pendulum for my dowsing, but I also use my body's senses. I trust what my body is telling me. On my YouTube channel, which is @paranormalspecialist, I have heaps of different videos, lots of different playlists, and one of them is dowsing, pendulum and body. So if you're interested in body dowsing and understanding how to use your body as a dowsing tool, and all dowsing is, it's a fancy word for detecting changes in the energy around you. I mean, I use a pendulum for my energy work. It's a focal point outside my body, but I also use my inner body system. It's your intuition, basically. If your gut instinct tells you to get out of a situation, you find your way out. So in episode 134, you're going to see the world of remote viewing in a new light. I used to think that remote viewing was all dark entities, the dark shapes and the black moving figures, but maybe it's not. And we're going to look at, is remote viewing safe, dangerous, or invading people's privacy? And why people do it? Have you experienced remote viewing? Are you someone that does remote viewing? So join me next week as I shed light on the secrets of remote viewing. And yes, we are going to be relating this to the dark and the demonic entities, and maybe some other types of entities. So stay tuned for this fascinating upcoming episode. If you like this spooky content of this episode today, please hit the subscribe button and you will get a notification when every new episode is released to the public. And stay tuned for many, many more episodes unpacking the strange and unseen aspects of the paranormal world around us. So thank you for joining me today. And don't forget, if you want to share a paranormal experience just with myself, or you would like me to share one of your experiences through my podcast, you can do a voice recording, or you can write out your experience and I will read it exactly as you have written. You can email me at spiritualbeing44@gmail.com. And for information on paranormal house clearing, you can visit my website, Spiritual Being. You will find the address in the description box. And I look forward to sharing this spooky space again with you next week. And remember, life is perfectly paranormal.